I realized that none of you knew Greg, even though you donated money when he died, and I thought it might be a nice way for me to share with you who is the Greg of Greg's Garden. But also before, I want you to know, Keith let me pick the hymns, so if you don't like them, I don't care. And I timed his speech. If I don't cry, it's 5 minutes. I know you want to go over unders. Anybody want to take any bets? I started crying in that song. So just so you know, to be afraid, be very afraid. And Joe, I'm going to give you the finger. Joe, no, back. There we go. I will give you the finger when the time is appropriate. All right. April 5th, 1982 began as a beautiful spring day as I entered the hospital to be induced for the birth of my first child. By the end of that day, a major snowstorm dumped inches of snow on the area, and the ambulance carrying my son was stuck on 90 East, headed towards Metro. Unfortunately, the cord had been wrapped around his neck 3 times, and he had suffered brain bleeding as a result. 2 days later, I was discharged and headed to Metro, where I was given the devastating news that Greg had suffered major brain damage and would probably not survive the week. He did survive, however, and a month later, he came home. At first, we were hopeful, but it soon became apparent that the damage was severe. He would never sit unaided or walk or talk, but he could smile. He also had quite a personality. I always believed that he could understand more than he could express, and his expressions of joy could light up a room. Oh, look at that face without those teeth. We kept him at home with us for as long as possible, almost 16 years, and tried to give him as normal a life as possible, including his spiritual life. He was baptized at Faith United Church of Christ in Richmond Heights, Ohio, by Reverend Paul Rohrbaugh, father of our very own Martha Vivona. He then became a member of Elyria First Congregational United Church of Christ, where he was a member of a special education Sunday school class, along with several other boys who also attended our church. And this, I know you probably can't see it. Only 3 of the boys are in there with him, but the Chronicle Telegram in Elyria always had a not forgotten box, and one of the projects of the special education class was to donate toys to that. So I see Greg with Chad, who had Down syndrome, and Matt, who had fetal alcohol syndrome, but we had that special class. We also bought our very first golden retriever because of Greg, and we named her Butterscotch because one of the few sounds he could make was "ba." Oh no, what happened? There she is. Oh, the things he used to do to her. And you really can't tell by this picture. He's probably grabbed the back of her head, and she's just sitting there. He also, those of you who know retrievers, they have very soft mouths. He would put his hand in her mouth and just pull on it. And she didn't really care because she knew that he was going to get snacks and there would be food. And so she just sat there patiently waiting for her little dribbles that would come along. Shortly before his 16th birthday, the opportunity to place him with Our Lady of the Wayside became available. And at the time, I thought that was the hardest decision I would ever have to make. But we made the decision because as he grew towards manhood, it became increasingly difficult to care for him at home. They took great care of him, and he spent many years living in a special home with 4 others out in Oberlin that was totally equipped to handle wheelchairs and all the other equipment that was needed. They also had special vans that were able to transport him to a variety of places for social activities. And on September 30th, 2017, one of those vans brought him down to Columbus for the wedding of his baby sister, Kate. He was the man of honor in the wedding. Excuse me. And my job was to wheel him down the aisle. I thought I was going to actually be the one with the IV and the Valium drip in there, but I was so apprehensive about this, as I was sure that I would ugly cry, not time for those pictures, ugly cry down the aisle. But one of Greg's favorite things to do always occurred in places that echoed, like food courts in malls, where everyone would stare at us. And as soon as we, go back a picture, as soon as we started down the aisle, Greg sensed, are we missing a picture? Are we missing a picture? Is there another picture? That's the one I want. As we started down the aisle, Greg sensed that this old, beautiful Episcopal church was the ideal setting for him to start to squeal loudly. And as you can see from this picture, I couldn't help but, well, you probably can't see, it's too far away, but that's all right. I couldn't help but smile along with the others sitting in the pews. I did not cry going down the aisle, because he was just, and what you can't see is his arm was going and he was echoing in this beautiful church. Now the final picture. There it is. This final picture was taken of him and his sister Kate, and you can see the joy on both of their faces. By the way, this is the first time in his life he wore a shirt and a tie. He knew this was a special day, and I think he knew there was another guy in her life who loved her just as much as he did. Shortly after the wedding, his health began to decline. But it wasn't until May of 2018 that we realized the full truth. His body was beginning to shut down. And on June 13th, his father and I had to make the heart-wrenching decision to stop his tube feedings and allow his body to shut down naturally. 8 very long days later, on June 21st, Greg passed away, surrounded by his mother, father, and sister. My first vision was of him leaping from the wheelchair and running up to Butterscotch. Today we will dedicate a new swing in what will be called Greg's Garden. I will leave you with these thoughts, written by his sister as she struggled to deal with her grief. Give me a minute. Greg, his unconditional love and ability to be joyful despite his limitations. His spirit, that's what made him special in this earthly world. But those qualities transcend this world. His spirit will live with me always. It will be a constant reminder to love unconditionally, to live joyously, to remove negativity, and to live beyond limitations and expectations. I hope all of you will take some time to sit on the swing in Greg's Garden and find some joy. Thank you.